Hi friends, welcome back to 5 Minute Modern. My name is Cindy, and today we're taking another look at Pablo Picasso, and at his breakthrough painting, Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, which would go on to become one of the most important paintings of the century. I recently did a video on Picasso's Blue Period, which is linked in the description below. And if you haven't seen that one yet, I'd encourage you to check that one out before you watch this one, since I'll be picking up right where that video left off. As in the last video, just a note as well that when discussing Picasso, it's important to mention his misogyny and his Eurocentrism, both of which will be explored in this video. As Picasso drifted away from the melancholy compositions of his Blue Period around 1905, he entered the Rose Period, characterized by reddish-pink hues and more vibrant subjects. Picasso started the Rose Period with paintings of acrobats and circus performers, but by 1906, he began shifting his focus to earthy and sensual nudes. Although by that time Picasso had permanently settled in Paris, his Rose Period nudes were deeply connected to his native Spain. The rose shades that dominate these paintings were inspired by the reddish clay soil of Catalonia, a region on Spain's eastern coast. Picasso also sought inspiration from the ancient sculptures of Iberia, present-day Spain and Portugal. Like many modern artists at the turn of the 20th century, Picasso felt that looking back at ancient art could help bring a vitality to his work that had been lost in the modern era. Consequently, in the faces of Picasso's nudes, we see black and empty eye sockets, evocative of ancient sculptures and masks. We can also see the flat nasal bridge, even with the forehead, and gentle curve of eyebrows over almond-shaped eyes, all characteristic of ancient sculpture from Iberia as well. While Picasso was immersed in this study of ancient sculpture, his chief rival at the time, Henri Matisse, unveiled his bold new work, Blue Nude. Blue Nude was shocking and provocative in its day, even prompting a group of students at the Art Institute of Chicago to burn copies of it when the painting was first shown there. Picasso sought to steal his rival's spotlight by making an even more shocking and controversial painting, and within months, he unveiled Les Demoiselles d'Avignon. The painting feels antagonistic and confrontational, even today. When painter Georges Braque first saw it, he compared it to drinking gasoline and spitting fire. 5 nude women stand in a shallow space in which the fore and backgrounds are almost indistinguishable. All the women's faces are mask-like, though the 2 on the right are a dramatic shift from those on the left. The 3 women on the left are a continuation of Picasso's interest in ancient Iberian sculpture, retaining the almond-shaped eyes and flat nose bridge of his earlier nudes. Looking at the 2 on the right, however, we can see Picasso blatantly appropriating the style of African masks. While working on this piece, Picasso went to the Ethnographic Museum in France, which held many artworks stolen from French colonies in Africa. Encountering African art would be transformative for Picasso, who began enthusiastically appropriating the styles and forms of African masks in his own paintings. Like other European painters who appropriated African art, Picasso was driven by a racist assumption that African art was the product of a society that was less developed than his own. An assumption undercut by how much inspiration and innovation in Picasso's work was driven by his appropriation of African art. In the specific case of Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, Picasso seems to be dehumanizing the 2 women on the right by rendering them with faces modeled after African masks. All the more so considering Picasso's troubling belief that African culture was more primitive than his own. This also points to the blatant misogyny evident in this painting. The women depicted are sex workers, as is indicated by the title, which references the red light district of Barcelona, where Picasso visited brothels as a young man. And indeed, the women are lined up like objects, as they would be in a brothel, for the pleasure of a male spectator, whose position is taken by the painting's viewer. Though sex work can be empowering for some women, Picasso portrays sex workers as merchandise, ripe for consumption, much like the fruit in the foreground. They are positioned in a grotesquely objectifying manner, without agency or autonomy, offering carnal pleasure. But there's also a deeply phobic suggestion of danger in the sharp edges of the women's bodies and the background they merge into, as though the picture plane is formed by shards of broken glass. Picasso's making a blunt and deeply problematic statement that the sex workers and the pleasures they offer are dangerous to the consumer. And yet, while the pointed angles of the painting represent Picasso's misogynistic criticism of his subjects, they're also signs of a major stylistic breakthrough for modern painting. Where Western painting had tried to approximate 3 dimensions for centuries, in this painting, he deliberately flattened the forms of the women's bodies, working to solve the fundamental issue of portraying 3-dimensional space on a 2-dimensional canvas in an unprecedented way. We can see the same thing in the shallow pictorial space. Rather than trying to trick the eye by evoking perspective, as artists had done since the Renaissance, Picasso flattened the image he was painting, flattening the world to match the canvas rather than trying to portray 3 dimensions on the canvas to match the world, was a wholly revolutionary approach to art, one truer to the nature of painting's materials than anything that had been done before. For all the ways that Les Demoiselles d'Avignon represents deeply regressive views of women and non-European cultures, it also sparked a boldly revolutionary new way of thinking about images, one that set the stage for Cubism, and in turn set the stage for all of modern art that would follow after. Let me know what you think about this painting in the comments below. Like I said, it's a bit of a contradiction. It's really regressive in some ways, but totally revolutionary in others. I hope you enjoyed this video, I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.